Welcome back to Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence. And today we are going to talk about personal impact. How do you overcome things that have been holding you back? How do you get out of your own way? How do you heal the past traumas? I am joined by Adrian. Adrian is the CEO, the visionary behind Potentia, which is a personal development brand. We're going to jump into that in a second. Today, though, on Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence, the #1 show for reaching millions of people, we are going to help you overcome your traumas. Adrian, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. I know that you have a wealth of tools and tactics that people can use to better their lives, to realize their potential. Potentia. See,
Potentia is the root word of it. So
there we go. But it didn't start there for you. I mean, nobody just wakes up one day and they're like, I can transform anybody, including myself. There had to be a road to reach this journey. So where did it start for you specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order for me to really make sure you have the best understanding as to how this happened, I'm gonna start and I'm gonna run through this as quick as I can without missing the important parts. But about 7 years ago, I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. So I was extremely overweight. And at the time I was really just, selling drugs, using them, unemployed. Didn't really have anything going for me at the time. And I was okay with it. Kind of sad to say. Like I was like somebody who was very comfortable and didn't want to change anything. And one day though, some urge came across me to call up my friend and tell him to, hey, come hang out, smoke with me. Let's just talk, chill. And he was like, sure. So I called him to come over. As I get up off of the couch and keep in mind, I don't have a shirt on. And this is a very important key factor of the story. I didn't have my shirt on and my doorbell rings. So I get up and I walk across the kitchen room. I walk across the kitchen to go to the front door. And on the kitchen table, my shirt's hanging on the chair. And I stop and I look at the shirt and I'm like, should I put my shirt on to answer the door? But then I was like, oh, it's just my friend Gilbert. Like, it's not like there's some women out there I need to go put my shirt on for. So I just opened the door like a best friend. I don't really care. So I opened the door and the first thing he says, he saw me every day, but I guess he hadn't seen me without a shirt for a long time. And so he saw me that day and he was like, Adrian, dude, you got fat. He was like, you really got fat, man. But he didn't say it he said it way blunt and used some cuss words in it and just telling me how it was. And I guess for the first time, it really stung. I knew I was getting out of shape because I gained 100 pounds in 4 years. So it was very noticeable at this time of my life. Even my mom was calling saying Adrian, you're getting overweight. So that's how you know you're starting to get overweight, right? However, something stung about the way he said it, and it really got me. And I remember we were in the backyard talking, and all of a sudden I just say, hey, look, I'm about to lose all this weight, man. There's no way I can keep doing this. This is not who I am. And he didn't believe me. Of course, I wouldn't have believed me at the time either, but I just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to lose all this weight. And then sure enough, I wake up the next day. And to make a long story short, man, within 9 months, I lost 91 pounds. And within that time span, my entire life, I don't know if you've ever been on a weight loss journey or any kind of physical transformation, but if it's that drastic, it is the most life-altering, consciousness-altering thing. Your day-to-day is so different. And in that time span, I started helping people get in shape. I was like, I want to help people get in shape. This is fun. So I started helping people get in shape and I was loving it. But then I noticed some clients would pay me $3,000 to $5,000 and they would change their whole life, right? They'd lose the weight, they'd hit the ground running and they'd get what they paid for. Other clients would pay me the same amount of money, have access to the same information, to the same coaching, and not do anything with it. This was very interesting to me. I was like, how can some people do this? And basically, I wanted to learn why human beings do what they do. Because if I can understand why human beings do what they do, then I can change that fundamental factor and actually get them to get the results that they want, which just led me to researching all this stuff online. And I ended up stumbling upon something called hypnosis, which is basically what I'm doing today now. So that's what led me to where I'm at right now.
Okay, so we're going to come back to hypnosis because
Okay.
anyone listening to this, I know what they're thinking right away. They're like, tell me how you lost 91 pounds. What was the diet? What was the workout program? But what you pointed to is the truth, like loud and clear, and it's right in front of people. It's not about the diet. There are 50 different diets you could go on today and lose the weight, right? I mean, you can go on YouTube, you can find a diet, you can Google diet. Any one of them will work. Any one of them. Any one of the workout programs. Some are easier, some are harder. They will all result in you losing weight if you take action. The thing that you hit on, and going back to the conversation you had in the backyard, I want to know, what was the thing that triggered in your head that made you take action? Because 99 out of 100 people would have said the same thing. They would have said, you know what? I need to lose weight. My mom's calling me fat. My best friend is calling me fat. Like, I feel fat. I'm upset. I'm in this downward spiral. A lot of people would have said, my life sucks, but there's nothing I can do about it. Or my life sucks. I'm going to lose weight. But then they would have got up the next day and they would have ate a dozen donuts and they wouldn't have done anything. So what was the thing? And then we'll get to hypnosis and NLP, because I love that stuff. But what, in that moment, can you go back? Like, what triggered that set you in motion?
That's so interesting, because I can't believe nobody's ever asked me that very specific question. And now that I like go back and I put myself in that moment, I know it sounds cliche and you probably heard this time and time again, man, but I guess it was like, I was like up. I guess I experienced so much pain that I just wasn't willing to do it anymore. And for some reason, it was just like a no-brainer for me. Because keep in mind, 4 years prior to that, I had a six-pack. I was in shape. I was just really fit, athletic guy. I went through a high school breakup and I started just eating and doing all this like drugs and saying, screw it, I don't care. And so I think it was just like a big conviction that that wasn't me. Like, it didn't feel like me. I was like, there's no way that this like version of Adrian, there's no way that this is actually what I am. And I think that's like what it was, now that I really think about it.
So, okay, that is super interesting. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I'm sure you've listened to some Tony stuff.
Oh yeah, man.
But the thing that they have found in psychology is that we always revert to what we see ourselves as. What our inner image of ourself is what we revert to. So if you see yourself as somebody who is, we'll say, poor, because a lot of people say like money's a problem, or see yourself as middle class, or see yourself as living paycheck to paycheck, no matter what you do, you win the lottery, all of that money will disappear in a short amount of time, and you will go back to the same patterns and the same habitualized life that you have had. If you continue to see yourself as that, you have to change the inner person, which hypnosis and NLP is great for. But what I heard you say in your answer also was, you hit a place of pain. Pain triggered you to say, this is not me. You didn't say, I'm a fat person. I'm a person who struggles with obesity. I'm a person who is overweight. You said, this is not me. And I didn't put those words in your mouth. We didn't talk about this before the episode, but that is 100%. People hit a place of pain. This is a training that I actually do for people. It's called the 1 through 10 pain scale, right? 1 is extreme pain, rock bottom. 10 is euphoric, top of the world. Most people live their life in a stage between 4 and 7. They'll be in pain. They don't like it. They're unhappy, but they're not in enough pain that it triggers a change. And they never get happy enough to go to the next level either. Like, if you're at a 10, you're just in so much momentum. That's where like Michael Jordan and Kobe live, right? Like, they were like, I'm so good at this, I am going to keep dominating. And like, if they fell to like an 8, they were in pain. So they worked harder and harder. Anyway, it was really interesting to hear you say that. So you hit this moment, pain, this is not who I am. 9 months later, in that 9-month period, because I think a lot of people glance over this too. Like, In that 9-month period, how many days did you have where you got up and you didn't want to do it? Or days where you're like, dude, I could eat some ho-hos right now. Or, you know what I mean? Like, how did that period go for you?
This may be an answer that most people are not used to whenever it comes, especially when it comes to weight loss, man. Like, especially because at the end of the day, weight loss, if we're going to get very real about it, weight loss is changing your day-to-day decisions, changing your habitual decisions. That's what weight loss, like you got to change your habitual decisions. And that's difficult for a lot of people. However, for me, when I say I lost 91 pounds in 9 months, it felt very natural. Like it was a very, I guess I wanted it so bad that I did not want to screw up. Like I did not want to go back to my old way of living. It was very like, in other words, it was very easy for me to wake up earlier, do my workouts. It was very easy for me to meal prep, eat the food I wanted to eat. Of course, I had some days where I was like, well, I don't want to hit legs today. You know, of course, I had those days where I'm like, well, I'd like to eat me an extra blueberry donut today, you know. But I think the most significant aspect of it is I had such a natural tendency to live in a particular way. Because like you said, that self-image, the way we see ourselves. When I made that decision on September 19, 2017, to lose all of that weight, that was a very specific date I made that decision. When I made that decision, in my mind, I was a healthy person. I was like, I'm going to lose all of this weight because this is not me. This body's not me because I'm sharp. I'm healthy. I'm a very, you know, like successful person. This is not who I am. And so I guess because I was so convinced on that self-image and already had data from what it used to look like at that point in my life, because I've already lived like that, it was really easy for me to live in alignment with that image. Because at the end of the day, your self-image is like the beginning of all of your thoughts, all of your habits, all of your beliefs, because they have to mirror that self-image. So yeah, man, that's it. That's my long answer to that. It was just,
that's good though.
It was very interesting. Yeah, it was a very interesting experience.
I mean, I think you are correct. When you have, one of my favorite quotes is, I used to have it hanging on the wall in my other office. It says something along the lines of, obstacles are the things that you see when you take your eyes off the goal. When you are looking, when you like see, like, I'm thin, I'm in shape, that's who I am. Like, it doesn't matter. The alarm goes off at 5:45. I'm excited to get out of bed. I want to do those workouts. Because I see the weight coming off of me, right? The reason that I asked the question though, is because I think a lot of people, they approach it as a sprint instead of a marathon, right? A lot of people would have taken the same thing and said, I'm losing 100 pounds this month. Like, diet's never going to see anything like this. I'm going to go on a water fast. I'm going to work out 8 hours a day. And then a week in, they're not seeing the results that they expected, right? I hear all this all the time in the business field. I'm going to make $1 million in my first 3 months in business. Gary Vee said, if I just grind, I'll be there. Well, dude, like, I talked to a guy last week. He wanted to start teaching people Japanese so that they could read Japanese comic books. He didn't have a degree in Japanese. He couldn't read Japanese very well. He said he read at a second grade level. I asked him. He had no marketing, no budget, and no students, but yet he was trying to sell $1,000 a month coaching program to learn to read Japanese. Is there somebody out there who would pay him? Maybe one somewhere, right? You could probably sell somebody something somewhere if you could get to them. But like, is it realistic? I'm all for stretch goals. You should have a goal that stretches you a little bit. But when you say, I'm going to go run a marathon and I'm going to run sub 3 hours, like, that's a professional marathon runner. Start with a goal that is, I'm just going to run the marathon. If you're honest with yourself, could you run a marathon 3 months from now? Is that something you could realistically do? Okay, then let's set a time. Average time is 4.5 hours. Let's just go for, I'm going to come in under 5 hours. Like, if you set goals, you did the same thing with yourself. A lot of people, though, would have hit it really hard. And then 2 weeks in, I'm not doing legs today. It's not getting me anywhere anyway. They tell themselves the story. which is where hypnosis comes in. So
Yeah.
see, we're
And
coming
one
right
more
back.
thing that's
Oh, go ahead.
one more thing that's important about what you just said there is like I didn't set a goal to lose 100 pounds. It wasn't very specific. It was I am just going to be this person. And when you see yourself as like you said, like that image, you are naturally going to slow down because somebody who's healthy doesn't try to prove it, right? Somebody who's wealthy doesn't try to like affirm it to themselves. You just naturally start living differently. So that's another very important distinction I think people should understand as well. Is just like, well, yeah, the specific goals that you want, but what kind of person even gets those goals? And why don't you focus on just being that? Because then naturally you'll get that specific one too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, so let's dive into hypnosis and NLP. So you got really curious because you saw some people do really well with your program and other people kind of fell off. And we see this across everywhere in life, right?
Yeah.
There are people that are given the tools, but yet can't get out of their own way, can't get out of bed, can't implement them. And there are people who do. So one, what did you find and where did that lead you? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So again, I always was like, I want to have a program with a 100% success rate. Everybody talks about they have a high success rate, but how can you get everybody through the door to the actual finish line? And so once I just noticed, okay, apparently paying money is not enough of a motivator, especially like that much. What is it? So my natural inclination was like, should I like go to school and become like a psychologist and like learn this? But I was like, well, there's Google, so never mind that. So I just get on Google and I just start diving into everything. Now, you see, I was looking at everything very objective. I'm like, what are the actual like percentages of people who go through a certain modality, coaching technique, process, healing, something? What's the percentage that they actually get results? So whenever I wanted to understand human behavior, I naturally thought in the realm of therapy. So I started looking at therapy to see it has a success rate of around 33%, traditional therapy, CBT, and things like that. I was like, it's not so solid. And I looked at life coaching, which has about 22%. And I was like, all right, there has to be something better. So I continuously looked and I stumbled upon hypnosis, which had a 93% success rate. That got me really like, I was like, whoa, I was like, it's not 100. I'm like, but it's really close. So let's figure out like what is doing this. So whenever I started diving into understanding hypnosis, I started naturally understanding human behavior. And one of the key things I discovered about human behavior is that two things. If you only act how you feel, that's number one. You will only act in alignment it's going to be your actions are going to be a direct reflection of an emotional state. You cannot act out of an emotional state. And this is why people say, I'm fine, but you can tell they're not, right? Their emotional state is not going to outweigh. I mean, they're not going to be able to outdo that. And second thing is you can't outwork a belief. So I started noticing that every single behavior that human beings are engaging in, especially compulsive behaviors, are coming from more than not, they're coming from emotional decisions that were made somewhere between the ages of 2 and 8. We make these very emotional decisions that stick with us forever until you wake up one day, you catch the pattern, and you can change it. Like willpower, in other words, I discovered that willpower and free will are exactly the weakest tools in the box. And basically a quick expansion on that is I used to believe in free will as in I can think what I want, say what I want, do what I want. But we think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And this is one of the things I discovered through hypnosis as well, because when I learned hypnosis, I just started learning about the mind and why we do what we do. And I noticed we think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And you're only aware of about 1,200 to 1,600 thoughts a day. That's how much you're aware of. And so I was like, so all of these compulsive thoughts, if we have these compulsive thoughts, how free are we? Right? If we consistently have these compulsive reactions, are we really free? And that made me realize that free will really just comes down to your freedom to choose your self-image. You can choose however you want to see yourself. You have infinite freedom. There's no bound on how you want to see yourself. But that's where your free will also ends. Because the moment you choose to see yourself a certain way, growing up, and you choose to see yourself as not being enough, right? That's one of the most universal beliefs we hold, that people hold, is I'm not enough. That's an image of yourself, a not enough image, right? So we choose this image, this freedom to choose this image. And then every thought, habit, belief, behavior follows in direct alignment with that. So if we want to change our results, we got to be willing to change our unconscious self-image. And so does that answer your question as to what I discovered as to?
Hey, thanks for taking a moment to check out this episode of Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence, the #1 show helping you reach millions. Have you ever thought about building your own webinar or using public speaking to reach your ideal audience? Well, if you'd like my help with it, over the last several years, I have built more than 40 live events for clients just like you. In the last 18 months, I've helped 32 entrepreneurs build their webinar with over $5 million in cumulative sales. If you'd like to see how I can work with you, or if you'd be interested in having me speak at your event or be on your podcast, go to steven.coffee, that's steven.coffee, to book a short call with me and see how we can work together. All right, let's jump back to the episode. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So let's dive into, because the first thing, like, I'm certified in hypnosis as well. I don't use it very often. Oh my God,
I love that. I had no clue.
Yeah, well, I did Marissa Peer's program. I don't know, it's RTT. It's rapid transformation.
That's one of the modalities I've done and used. Yes.
Okay. So I don't use it very much. I went through it because I wanted to learn, basically because I'm a lifelong learner. And I was like, I think that I can use that. I think it's beneficial. But to people that are listening to this and they're like, hypnosis, like you're going to make me cluck like a chicken, jump around on stage. So talk to me about how do you tell people what hypnosis is, and how does that help them specifically either change the emotional decision that was made between 2 and 8 years old, and redefine their self-image?
So one of the things I do want to just say really quick is we can definitely pick up patterns. We could definitely pick up patterns after the age of 8. It's 100% possible. Majority of our actual patterns, though, are happening in between. They're happening, they're sourced from that age. But anyways, so now aside from that, if we're going to answer what hypnosis is, I think it's very important we understand that everything is hypnosis, because hypnosis is nothing but an internal trance, right? It is a fully absorbed state and people say it's a fully absorbed state of attention. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's a fully absorbed state of experience where you're fully absorbed in a certain experience to the point where that experience is the only truth for you. So we can put it this way. You can never not be in a trance. And when I say an internal trance, I mean everything is internal. Like my voice right now, it's not happening outside of you. It's happening inside of your mind. You're picking up a vibration and you're interpreting it. Same thing with my image. I'm not out here. I'm just happening in your optical lobe. And so once we understand that literally everything is internal, like if right now me and you were to touch, like shake hands, what would happen is you would just feel your sensations in your hand. You wouldn't feel my hand. So you start to notice everything is internal. So that's what I mean by everything is hypnosis, because you're always in a trance. In order to live in this human body, which I believe we're way more than human beings, by the way, I believe there's something infinite within every one of us. That can be a whole nother conversation. But with that being said, knowing that there's something infinite within all of us, we have to our consciousness has to trance itself out to live in this reality. Right. So With that being said, what is the actual example of hypnosis to make it clear? I mean, you're working out and then the whole world disappears. Whatever. Have you ever worked out and while you're working out, all your problems disappear? You're reading a book, hours go by and you lose sense of time. All of that is a perfect example of a hypnotic trance. You click on an ad, you purchase, you buy right there. You got hypnotized to buy that thing. So everything is hypnosis there, right? So there's no such thing as mind control in hypnosis as well, because it's always your mind and you're always one in control. So any myths around hypnosis and mind control, that can be a whole thing in itself. But, okay, so I'm sorry. So I wanted to explain what hypnosis was. And really quickly, the scientific easiest way to explain it is alpha brain waves as well. If we're going to get scientific about it, you're just getting from delta into alpha. When you dip into alpha, you can make infinite changes to your behavior because alpha is an unconscious state, and all change happens unconsciously. You never change your behavior consciously. You can do it consciously, but the actual change happens in an unconscious part of yourself. Okay. So that is like the easiest way to put the scientific backing behind hypnosis is just, can you get in an alpha brainwave? Absolutely. It's easy to do. And then from that brainwave, if you have certain processes, you can follow a certain, process to heal something. But aside from that, so how do we actually change though? Like, how do we use hypnosis to change? So if everything is hypnosis, then how the heck do we use it to change? The easiest ways to do this is you want to understand why you're doing what you're doing. So for example, we can put it this way. If somebody is constantly, let's use a super easy example. Let's say somebody's constantly overeating, right?
Okay.
They're constantly overeating and then they want to stop overeating. In hypnosis, what you're able to do is you're able to communicate with your unconscious mind, and which controls basically all of your behavior. So if you're consistently overeating in hypnosis, what my job is, what I do is I help people figure out the belief that is creating that creating that pattern, right? Like if somebody's constantly overeating, there's a belief behind that.
Yep.
Now, what I do is specifically find where the belief started. So if somebody wants to really change their constant behavior, what they want to do is they want to find out where a certain belief started. So for example, one of my clients, they were consistently overeating. And when we got down to it, because what I do, and as you know, with RTT, you're able to go back to certain experiences, certain memories that trigger certain beliefs. And in this case, all of the events, well, I can't get too personal because some of them were very, very like abusive. Yeah. But basically, at the end of the day, the event led this client to believe that they were not enough, and that number two, that they had to be big to be safe. Right. So they grew up, and because they were so small, they got so handled. In her mind, she was like, I got to be big. If I'm big, I can control myself. If I'm big, I can help people. We make decisions like that at like 4 or 5 years old. Well, no wonder at 30, 40 years old, you constantly feel the need to eat because it actually feels safe to you.
Yeah, you lived out the belief and it became a habituated pattern.
Exactly. And so it's just like, how can you make what you want feel safe? That's all that it comes down to. Hypnosis is a beautiful way to meet unmet needs from your childhood, because self-sabotaging behaviors are typically stemmed from unmet needs that you had as a child. So with the power of hypnosis, I believe that anybody can go relive their childhood. It's not too late. And it's one of the easiest ways to do inner child work is through hypnosis. And we can dive more into inner child work itself. But I'm sorry, I've been going on. So what was I'm like, I kind of got sidetracked from the original question.
No, you're great, man. The question was, how does hypnosis help reprogram your self-image?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
there's a lot in there. I mean, so I'll point to two or three things. The first one is I've not met one person who, if they are honest, says, I have a lot of moments where I say I am not enough. I have interviewed people who $400 million, $500 million, they still have a little bit of that belief somewhere in their life. It is definitely more common in people that don't have that much money. I think most people who have made millions and millions have conquered some of that. But the real thing is, why do you believe that? Where in your childhood or younger age usually did that trigger? Somewhere there is something that caused you to believe that. And then to your point about being safe, we are going to act in a way that feels congruent with our self-image and makes us feel safe.
Mm-hmm. And
one of the largest people.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the biggest things that I've seen in people who struggle a lot with money is they have a belief somewhere. Maybe it's not that money was bad, but that if you have a lot of money, people won't like you. You'll lose friends. People will take advantage of you. People judge you. One of our biggest fear in life is being judged negatively. And a lot of people have, if I make a lot of money, I will be judged negatively. And when that is true, it is really hard to make a lot of money because you'll just want to give it away because you don't ever want to feel like you're being judged.
Exactly. So it's not safe.
Right. Adrian, we could probably talk a long time about this, but the thing that I want to bring up is if people want your help, because I don't do hypnosis. I studied it because I was interested in it, but you actually practice it. Where can people find you? Where can people go to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way to actually come into my world is through experience. I believe that at the end of the day, don't believe anything I'm saying, just experience it for yourself. So if you go to rewiremythoughts.com/transform, rewiremythoughts.com/transform, you will be able to get into my world. It's going to take you to basically a video where you actually get to go through the hypnosis process I take my clients through. But also when you download the video, it's going to send you my link to my Facebook group, to my Facebook, Instagram, all of my social medias. But the easiest way to just get into my world is get through there. And then I'll release everything else in the email after that.
Awesome. So we will tag that. That will all be in the show notes. So look in the show notes, go check Adrian out. Adrian, I want to wrap up the show. I want to ask, what is one thing that you would like to leave the listeners with as they go through their day, whether this is something that is a falsity that you want to set straight, whether this is one of your favorite quotes, whatever it is, what is one thing that you would leave listeners with that they can take away from this and rapidly change their life with?
Well, I can tell that there's a lot of entrepreneurs and high performers that listen to this podcast, right? So with that being said, I think it's really important that we debunk this and that we just let go of this entire idea that action alleviates anxiety. And when you're feeling anxious, it's because you're thinking too much. So just act. That's probably one of the most dangerous things for a human being to adopt, because they are going to just ravage their immune system over time if they live like that. I think what the most important thing that an entrepreneur can do is create the internal space that they need to perform well. And in order to do that, you have to slow down. You got to address what you're actually feeling. And so what I'm going to really finish this thing off with is I strongly encourage you to pay attention to the parts of yourself that you've been rejecting or making wrong. Right? You feel wrong about feeling like that, or you just reject feeling like that, whatever that is. But embracing those parts of yourself and actually allowing yourself to feel that, right? If you feel like you're not good enough, if you consciously say, I am good enough, but you don't feel like you're good enough, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that feeling. Feelings are not logical. So don't logically try to think you're something that you're not. Pay attention to your actual feelings. And go revisit that inner child of yourself, and really just make sure your inner child feels safe. because the easiest thing you can do for yourself and for everybody that you help is to heal the parts of yourself that think they're broken. And the only way to do that is to actually slow down and pay attention to them. And also, you're not broken. Like, keep in mind what I just said. Heal the parts of yourself that think they're broken. You're not broken. Just a matter of making sure all of you actually knows that.
I think that is very, very true. Adrian, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing so many different things. We covered a lot. If your head is spinning, you can always go listen to it again. Make sure you check out Adrian's website, which is listed down below. That will get you into his world. You'll get to experience a little bit of hypnosis. I promise it will help you. It is one of the most powerful things in the world.
Absolutely.
Adrian, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. It is my pleasure. To everyone else out there, until next time, take action, change lives, and make money. We'll see you soon.